Hello, my name is Ronnie Barkan. I am a conscientious objector to military service in Israel, also a member of the Palestinian Popular Struggle, which is joined by a handful of Israelis and internationals, and most importantly, a member of the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions campaign, the BDS campaign against Israel. Many people have a lot of misconceptions about the BDS campaign, so let me clarify about that. There are three fundamental rights of the Palestinian people, which are enshrined in international law and human rights conventions. And what we are asking for, what the Palestinian campaign is asking for, is for the rest of the world to show solidarity by applying non-violent means of boycott, divestment and sanctions against Israel until Israel meets its obligations under international law and human rights conventions. So what are these three rights? The first right is about ending the occupation, the harsh, brutal military occupation of 1967, which includes the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, of course, and the Gaza Strip. The situation there is simply beyond description. And we are now hearing the drums of war again in the air, where the Israeli government is discussing another attack on Gaza. They are attacking largely civilian population that literally cannot defend itself in any possible way, and they have nowhere to go to, nowhere to run to. The situation in Gaza is so unbearable that 95% of the water is toxic. It is not fit for human consumption. And they are saying that in a few years from now, the situation will simply be unlivable. It will be not inhabitable. So the situation in Gaza is definitely a dire situation. And this in itself demands a concrete, immediate action so that people will get their basic rights. But this is just one of the three fundamental rights of the Palestinians, ending that harsh military occupation. Secondly, it is about equality. The second demand is equality for those citizens of Israel who are at best second-class citizens. They are 20% of the population of Israel, but unlike me, they are not among the privileged. They are not regarded as Israeli Jews according to the State of Israel, but they have another nationality. We are both Israeli citizens. We both have an Israeli citizenship, but we do not have the same nationality because by law, there is discrimination. By law, I carry what is regarded as a Jewish nationality by the State of Israel, and they have either Arab or Druze or Circassian nationalities. And that means that by law, there is discrimination. Today, there are more than 50 laws that discriminate between the privileged and the underprivileged, who are all citizens of that state. So obviously, these people who are treated as second-class citizens and lack basic political rights, they deserve to have the same rights as I do. Third, and most important, is the right of return. The right of those refugees, those sons and daughters of the land, who actually were living there during the foundation of the State of Israel and have been expelled for the sake of creating an artificially created Jewish majority. The Zionists who founded the State of Israel in 1948 decided that unlike what they were handed by the UN, unlike the UN sanction mandate that they received, and unlike the Balfour Declaration that preceded it, which said that that state of Israel will have to respect the rights of all the people of that land, those who founded the state, the Zionists who founded the State of Israel, they insisted to have something else. They insisted to have their kind of population. Or in other words, they insisted to have what they call a Jewish and democratic state. Now, this is not a logical term. There is no such thing as Jewish and democratic. Either you have a democracy or you don't have a democracy. But what it meant for them then and what it means for them today is that they can claim to have a democracy if they have their kind of population. Unfortunately for them, in 1948, they were not the majority, far from it. They were only about 30% of the population and had very little possession of land. So the first thing that happened during the creation of the State of Israel is to create their kind of majority by driving away the indigenous people from their land. Today, more than 70% of Palestinians are refugees. Most of them have been expelled from there during the foundation of the State of Israel and are denied the right to come back home ever since, for almost 7 decades. So this is the key issue that needs to be resolved. As complicated or as harsh as the situation is in Gaza and the West Bank, if we are not dealing with the issue of the refugees, we are not really dealing with the Zionist-Palestinian conflict. This is the key issue. And key is also the symbol that is being used by those refugees to claim ownership for their land and their homes, because the only thing that they have left in their possession today, those languishing in refugee camps in the vicinity of their homes, just on the other side of the fence, the only thing that they have in their possession at the moment is the key to their homes. So we have to respect the three fundamental rights of the Palestinians, and until such a time that Israel respects these rights, we and the Palestinian people are calling on you to apply pressure on Israel in order to make it respect these fundamental rights, abide by its obligations under the law. Now, for saying that, for some reason, people like myself and definitely the Palestinian leadership of the BDS campaign is being vilified, it is being called by different names, but there are also concrete actions taking place against people like myself and the Palestinians who are heading this campaign. Quite recently there was an anti-BDS conference taking place in Jerusalem, which is partly occupied. And in these statements during that conference, there were clear threats towards people of the BDS campaign, simply because what we have to say is not being liked by these people who are heading the Zionist state. Those high-ranking ministers have offered to go after individuals, one of which is Omar Barghouti, who is one of the key people who is heading the BDS campaign, and only recently Omar has been denied his right to travel, to leave Israel. Other people have been silenced in different ways, and including myself. I have arrived in Oldenburg a few days ago in order to give a talk there about BDS, even though the city of Oldenburg, the municipality, has actually signed a contract to give the venue where I was supposed to speak. A few days before the event, they have went back on their decision, even though it was already signed. And they came up with different arguments about that there were threats of violence and they could not protect our safety. So I also had the organizers have also petitioned the court, and the court rejected their petition. And we have also met with the local police there, who have explained to us that they cannot protect us. But rather than going after those who have made the threats, they have quite literally were blaming the victims in this case. It was very clear that us BDS activists were not posing any threat. It was very clear that it was basically about our basic right for freedom of expression, that we wanted to make a clear case about what we think about Palestinian rights and urge other people to join the campaign. But those who have threatened to intervene and to use violence, they were the ones who should have been tackled by the police, but rather silencing us and going after the victims. This is not the only incident that I had. 2 weeks before that, I was supposed to speak in Tel Aviv at the offices of the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung. And this was organized by the Balad political party in 48. And part of that event was where I was supposed to speak in a panel about BDS. A few days before the event, the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung had decided to cancel my participation in the panel without giving clear reasons. Unfortunately, and because of that, the organizers, the Ballot Party, had to cancel the whole event because the event itself was about silenced voices. And it didn't make much sense to have an event about silenced voices while silencing the voice of BDS. I also happened to visit the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung here, the offices in Berlin, just 3 days ago. And they were hosting, it was very interesting because they were hosting a renowned activist, a hero who was fighting South African apartheid, Dennis Goldberg. And I was very happy to see that that organization is supporting the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa. Unfortunately, that very same organization is very much opposed to the anti-apartheid struggle that is taking place as we speak in Palestine. And I'm not just saying that because they silence my voice, but actually that organization, Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, is the public relations wing for the political party Die Linke, the left party in Germany. And that political party has taken a very clear stand, unfortunately. Their Bundestag group have taken a stand a few years back saying that BDS is anti-Semitic, that one state, one single democratic state with full equal rights for all the people living in historic Palestine, that notion is anti-Semitic. And the Gaza flotilla, the Freedom Flotilla to Gaza, trying to break that illegal siege of Gaza, that is anti-Semitic. And that is simply unacceptable. I don't accept any political party taking such a stand. It is despicable, and I think that they should go back on their decision, which is absolutely unacceptable and should not be justified. And until such a time that they will go back on that decision, I don't really see how anything that they do makes a lot of sense or is legitimate. This is a very, very serious accusation to make. I mean, we are demanding the most basic rights of Palestinians and the most basic rights of all the sons and daughters of that land. The ones who are being hurt the most at the moment are the Palestinians. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions about the whole situation in Israel-Palestine. First of all, people think that it is complicated, where it is